Department of Homeland Security doesn't know what habeas corpus means. Do you? Have you yourself passed a middle school social studies class? Do you honestly believe she doesn't know that? Well, I had to put myself in check because I thought that Kristi Noem was a lawyer. And that just shows my own ignorance. I just assumed. I mean, she talks and walks like one, and no disrespect for attorneys. But she's not. In fact, I didn't even know she didn't even have a degree until she was already in office as a politician. Kristi Noem may not know what habeas corpus meant. And I gave her the benefit of the doubt, thinking that she had a degree in law, in which case she apparently does not. So she may not know what habeas corpus meant, but is appointed to the highest office in the land when it comes to determining whether or not people should be deported or not in this country. Fascinating times that we live in, and it's supposedly based on merit. And this is my biggest gripe with those of you who support the current regime. You say that we don't want to have any discrimination when it comes to qualifications. You say that you don't want things based on diversity, equity, and inclusion, even though you can't define what that means or doesn't mean. Yet, you will go all out of your way to support someone like Kristi Noem, who can't define a basic legal term of due process and habeas corpus. Instead, and you will defend her to the death. You'll defend her to the death, even though she has absolutely no qualifications for the position that she holds. And she's not alone. Look at all the other appointees in the Trump administration who have absolutely no experience in the departments that they head. Is that based on meritocracy? The best, most qualified person for the job? Absolutely not. But I made a mistake about Kristi Noem. I just assumed that she was an attorney. And an attorney, this would be a very basic, this is middle school civics here. It's not, law school to know what habeas corpus means or due process. But somehow it's acceptable when it comes to people like this. Do you really believe this? Do you really believe it when they say it's about meritocracy, when it's about the most deserving person getting the job? Apply that to any other aspect. The white South African, asylum seekers. Were they the most impacted by genocide or threats to their lives out of all the millions and millions of people in the world who are in the middle of true war impact zones and have true refugee asylum seeking status? Absolutely not. And let's stop this pretending. And this is what I think is wrong with the media on the left and the right. The right, we know what they're doing. They're state propaganda at this point. But those who so-called left, which I always have an issue with because the same corporations that fund a legislation that's contrary to what would benefit people, big pharma, all those things, they're the same people who are funding the so-called liberal media. So you got to be careful with all those categorizations as well. They're big business just like anything else. And even though they might say and talk about things, and actually, that's actually another caveat I want to go down. They may say things about Trump that are negative, and they do because it sells, right? I'm no fan of Trump, and I have criticisms for him every single day of my life. However, they don't do so with journalistic integrity most of the time. They are primarily just selling the story, and they'll say anything, which is why we have news this morning that CBS, I forget what her name is, but the head of CBS is stepping down because of capitulating to a lawsuit brought by Trump. Now, there's stuff behind the scenes here that you may not know about. So maybe you don't even know that story, but basically Trump sued CBS News, and they decided to settle recently. And as a part of that settlement, the head of CBS News, I forget her name, she steps down. She exits. Now, behind this deal was CBS was trying to procure, I think, some sort of merger with Paramount. They were trying to secure some big deal. And they need the Trump administration to approve that deal. So for those of you who want to be against Trump no matter what, part of that is coming back to bite us in the ass, those who really do want to 86 this regime. Because when you're willing to lend support to anything, whether it's true or not, then what we're doing is basically the same thing that we would accuse the dumb MAGA people of doing. Does that make sense? And basically that's fuel on their side, because there are astute and intelligent people, very intelligent people on the side who are basically fueling the Trump regime. We get all caught up on the people who could not even pass an 8th grade civics test. And that's kind of it's misdirected energy, because the real power behind the MAGA machine is not people that, these are very smart people. These are Peter Thiel. And if you don't know that name by now, then you have no business addressing anything related to politics. Peter Thiel is the mechanism behind and the person who made J.D. Vance who he is today. And these guys are all actors on the stage. Kristi Noem is an actor on a stage, has no law degree and things like that. And it's not based on meritocracy. But what I'm talking about with the CBS thing is I've seen other networks now going on and defending, saying that CBS should not have backed down to Trump and should double down on. No, not if they were wrong. Not if they were wrong. If they were wrong, these other journalists should be saying, no, for the sake of journalistic integrity, we should support a case that if Trump has a legitimate gripe against a network for doing something wrong, and I don't have all the facts on this one, but it does appear that they were giving Kamala Harris preferential treatment. I don't know this, so don't quote me on it, but they seem to have had a case if they were willing to settle like that. But it could be that, or it could be this other factor that they wanted a business deal and it was the path of least resistance. Okay, fine. But if there was wrongdoing by CBS, no, journalists, the answer is not to double down just because it's against Trump. This is the problem. We need to be based on facts and logic, and those are in favor of anybody against a serial liar. You don't need more weaponry when it comes to the facts, when it comes to whether or not this administration bases things on merit or not. We know it's not based on merit. Replace the word merit with loyalty to a person. And that is what you get, how you get your appointees. That's how you get Linda McMahon as the Department of Education Secretary with no experience in education, with a bachelor's degree in French. She was in a classroom once in 1969 and ever since has been like a corporate executive for the WWE with absolutely no experience doesn't even know what IDEA stands for, which is the primary legislation for students with disabilities. She went on national television and couldn't even say what it was, and made some excuse like, well, it's only my third day on the job. You shouldn't even be near that job. You shouldn't have been confirmed. You have no experience. None. And Trump will try to this thing, and this is what he's done. This is the same with Kristi Noem. What experience do these people have? Executive experience. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means you could be the head of a, CEO of a business or something like that. Kristi Noem was the governor of South Dakota, and somehow that qualifies her. Not even a state that has anything to do with the major issues that she's overseeing right now. She earned her bachelor's degree while being a politician in that state. And it wasn't even in law or anything like that. She majored in political science. She was groomed to be a political actor. None of these people are qualified. None of them. There's some exceptions, but those are already your deeply embedded politicians like a Marco Rubio and stuff like that. I disagree with him, but you can't say that he's not qualified. But if you look at all these other appointees, Pete Hegseth, that's the best we could do for our defense. Come on now. Fox News commentators, all these kind of things. These are not based on meritocracy. These are based on loyalty. And just going back to the most recent news with this whole Kristi Noem thing, she couldn't define habeas corpus. And I don't believe that. So my initial response was, because I thought she had a degree in law and I was wrong. My initial response was, there is no way that a lawyer doesn't know what that is. So she's basically just filibustering and lying, which if you watch any of her interactions with those questioning her, that's pretty much her tactic. And that's pretty much all their tactic. Filibuster and lie, filibuster and lie, filibuster and lie. And we will not 86 this regime by misinformation like they do. We will only 86 this administration by bringing the facts, which we know that the majority of the followers don't care about. But it's easy to get caught up in, and this is what I'll leave you with. It is easy to get caught up in this narrative that it doesn't matter because they'll believe the lies no matter what. This is true for a lot of people. But you have to remember that most people, I would say the majority of people are not engaged in any of these discussions, really. They're living their lives. They're these, and those are the people, though, who will become engaged once the shit hits the fan, right? By that time, it's too late. So really, I think the target should be those people who are not engaged right now and trying to bring them an awareness of what's on the horizon. Authoritarian populism, in the way that it's being played out right now, should be alarming to every single person on the planet. And people in other countries are more astutely aware of what's going on here than our own people. At the same time, the Democrats, I'm sorry if you're a Democrat, and the so-called corporate liberal media create a narrative of the sky is falling, crying wolf, and they do this over and over and over again, and it desensitizes the public to now we're actually in the middle of something that's real. But people can't hear it as much because they're so used to hearing all of this alarmist rhetoric. And so it's really hard. I was trying to explain this to someone the other day, that I can have a legitimate concern about something that Trump is doing. The habeas corpus thing would be one. But because of all the noise in the media, the reasons for my concern may not necessarily be the same as what are emerging in the media, because their only purpose is to sell this negative narrative of Trump regardless of whether it's true or not. And I think what needs to happen on the so-called left is we need to be even more conservative when it comes to like what we'll put out there and say, so that the other side can't grasp it when it's very clear that all that's happening here is posturing, if that makes any sense. Posturing, selling this narrative of we're the anti-Trump network and that kind of thing. I'm interested to see what you think about this, because what caught my eye this morning was watching Kristi Noem filibuster, try to like pretend like she didn't know what habeas corpus means. Even if she didn't know what it meant before a few months ago, she definitely knew it when she was in that hearing, because they would have been discussing it several times. They prep for these things, obviously. So for her to get up there and pretend like she doesn't know what habeas corpus means, or to try to shift the conversation saying the president can deport whoever he wants when he wants, is, a line of BS. And if you're defending that, then we have no room for dialogue or discussion. If you're defending that kind of nonsense, we have no room. Now, some of this is politics as usual. And interestingly enough, some Trump apologists are trying to frame what's happening right now as, oh, this happens all the time. All politicians lie. You're just making a big deal out of this because you don't like Trump. No, that is a false equivalency. And anyone who can't see that I hate this word, unprecedented times, but we are in unprecedented times when it comes to the extent of just how blatant people are willing to lie for their side. And I don't want to do that. I'm actually not even aligned with any political party these days in my life. Obviously, I'm not a conservative in many ways, but I don't align myself with Democrats. I think they're corrupt. I think both parties were, formed and framed off of white supremacy. Why in God's name do you think that these parties are going to fundamentally change? Demographics change. Certain things, we know that the Democrats and the Republicans flipped on social issues, after the Civil War and Reconstruction and all that. But fundamentally, things have not changed. And so we need something to emerge that transcends these really lame discussions. It's not about whether Kristi Noem knows what habeas corpus means. We know that she actually does know. And it's not about whether or not CBS News lent itself to favoring one party over the other. We know that they do. And so fundamentally the question is, what are we going to demand when it comes to our own information? And we are now on our own, in the sense that we are all consumers of information. Anything that you know about anything when it comes to these issues is coming through the media. So you could be a far right person railing against the mainstream media, but where are you getting your information? Social media. You're getting your information from your favorite Truth Social or your favorite right-wing network. And then everybody else, the mainstream network. So you're not getting your information independently. Nobody's doing like their own research. At least the majority of us are not. Now, so how can we're consumers. We're consumers of the information that we look at and that we're inundated with. But we do have tools now that can help us to consume information based on more well-informed sources, but it takes a little work. So one of the things that I do, and I don't have time to talk about it that much, and I'll do this in a future video, is there are AI tools that can help you filter information, not so that it fits your confirmation bias. That is not what I'm saying, because that's what a lot of us do too. Some of us will tune into MSNBC because we know we're going to get the narrative that'll just give us enough information so it supports our side or whatever. No, I'm talking about information that you can go to the sources to find, and if you can't find it, then it causes you should not just buy whatever narrative is being sold to you. So, for example, I use an AI tool called Perplexity, and none of these tools, by the way, are flawless, and you do need to learn how to navigate them, and you do need to learn about prompt engineering, how to engineer prompts that will give you results that are fair and accurate, and you have to push back actually against the results that are given to you to make sure, because AI tends to, these large language models will tend to like be very amicable towards your position. So if you're already biased, it rarely will push back against you. It'll just agree with you. That's a danger. And so one of the biggest things, this is literacy 101, is you should always understand your own biases and positionality so that you can push back against yourself and make sure that you're really informed and not just feeding your confirmation bias. So one of the things that I will do is I will always ask, when I go into Perplexity, what Perplexity does is it actually utilizes a variety of tools such as ChatGPT, Claude, and all these different models, and it brings in information from all of these sources, and you can watch it actually searching in real time for the queries that you put in. So when you use these tools, they can actually help inform and give you primary sources for things. And I hate to do this because that's the good news is we can inform ourselves, but it takes a little work, like anything else that takes a little work. So even though you're using a tool like AI, to help you find resources, you still have to do the work of critical thinking. And then I think I'll just leave it there. But anybody who thinks that meritocracy is at play here, and that DEI is the enemy against meritocracy is FOS, because we know for a fact that none of these appointments are based on anything other than loyalty to a regime, right? And it's just like this fake outrage over the term 86. I remember the first time I encountered the term 86, and it just meant it was somebody I knew who got kicked out of a bar all the time, and so finally they 86'd her. They kept her out of the bar because she was a raging drunk and causing trouble. That's it. Trump's like a raging drunk causing trouble, and as a society, we need to 86 him. No, it doesn't mean kill him. No, it doesn't mean unalive him. We know better than that. And for someone who has engaged in violent rhetoric over and over and over and again, and tough guy talk, he sure melts very quickly when given something that even remotely could be construed as that. And we'll leave all the conspiracy theories about assassination attempts and all that kind of thing for another time. But there's a lot of fuzziness around those things as well. Do I think that there are people out there that would want to? Yep, I do. I'm not one of them. That's the last thing that I would want. And it's the last thing you should want either, because it would just create a martyr complex that if you think that this one's bad, wait till the smart ones that are working behind him come into power. He's just laying the framework. He's breaking stuff so that those who actually have brains can come in and do their thing. Peter Thiel, look him up. I'm telling you, look him up. Elon Musk is not an intellectual. He's also not an inventor, but that's another thing. Elon Musk is part of a network of people who actually do understand what's going on here. They do believe in auto-technocracy. Now, Elon Musk's grandfather was definitely ideologically a part of this belief in the rule by a few elites who are technology, the head of technology at the time. Well, Peter Thiel is very much fundamentally a part of that philosophy. And that's why it amazes me that people don't talk about it more, because Peter Thiel is behind Elon Musk. He was a partner with Elon Musk at one point. And Peter Thiel single-handedly created the character of Jimmy Bowman, otherwise known as J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance did not exist before 2016. He is a creation of Peter Thiel, who single-handedly funded his campaign in Ohio, brought him to where he is today. So sometimes we need to pay attention to the people that we don't know about than the ones that we do. Yes, Trump is important because he's the big wrecking ball and creating chaos. And behind the scenes are these other people that we really need to be paying attention to. So let me know what you think. Please like and subscribe to the Proximity Portal. This was my morning commute. I'm Avi Penhallow. Love you guys. Have a great day.